After doing hundreds of live streams on this channel, I've learned one thing. You can't always wait for inspiration to show up. Especially when making art is your job, you need a system, not luck. Because if you're stuck before you even start, it's probably not because you lack talent. It's because a blank canvas is a giant decision with infinite wrong answers, and your brain hates that. It wants constraints. It wants something to react to. It wants context. So let's give it exactly that. When I was working as a concept artist full-time, I couldn't just wait for ideas to appear, so I built a way to start painting even when my head felt completely empty, and there were those days when I had no ideas whatsoever when I started. These are the 15-minute starting hacks that I use. They are structured art, almost like mini quests that secretly train real art skills while tricking your brain into just getting started. You don't need to be inspired and you don't need to be motivated. You only need 15 minutes. So let's break them down. 1. The atmospheric base pass. This is intentional chaos. Set a timer for 15 minutes. Grab a big brush and paint mood. Not a lighthouse, not a character, not a tree, just the mood. Try to feel what you're feeling and paint that. The only thing I want you to pay attention to here is the color temperature. Warm light feels safe and nostalgic, cool light feels distant or eerie or still. Even without objects, your colors are already telling a story. So just try to see what kind of colors you react to when you're doing this. You'll notice that 15 minutes is a really long time for something this simple, especially if your brush is big enough. So when you're done with the canvas, just put in a whole new layer and start over. Or duplicate your current one, bend it with warp transform, change the hue with adjustments and iterate on that copy. This way you will get a huge quantity of bases, and after that you can just choose one that you like, the one that in your opinion has potential. Why this works. Once the canvas isn't white anymore, your brain relaxes. You're not designing yet, you're just exploring. It forces you into play mode, kind of like a kid that is just making a mess. I'm using my perfect consistency brush here because I love the goopy mixing effect that it has. It's not important that you use this brush, but use one that you always enjoy using. It does help if the brush that you're using makes it easy to mix colors, so you can learn to observe and to react to what you see. This teaches you color intuition. It also teaches brushwork discipline. Big process physically stop you from noodling. You can't paint eyelashes with a huge mop. It forces you to think in masses instead of details, which is exactly what you want at this stage. This next part is for those of you who find it easier to get inspired by shapes rather than colors. And yes, you can do this in any order. The 3-tone plugin. Pick 3 colors, one dark, one mid, one light. This can be from your previous base pass if you did it first. You can also create yourself mini palette of just 3 tones. Or you can use these. Feel free to screenshot and use any of these for when you need them. Now, block in your subject using only those 3 tones. No details, no texture, just a silhouette and value grouping. If you don't have any idea at this point and you're just starting your session, this is where you find that idea. Make big shapes and sculpt the ones that you find interesting into more refined concept. This is where the chaos becomes a picture. So why this works is value grouping improves composition, which is a valuable skill no matter what you do. If your painting works in 3 tones, it will work in full color. This is why movie concept art often starts with tiny value thumbnails. They're testing readability before anything else. Limited color choices reduce decision fatigue. You're not juggling 40 colors and 12 process, you're just solving a simple puzzle. Where do the dark colors go? Where do the light colors go? This teaches shape language. Sharp shapes feel dangerous, round shapes feel friendly, diagonals feel dynamic. Even at this stage, your shapes are already telling the viewer how to feel. And if you're drawn to a shape in your original mess, you can use this information to reverse engineer what your idea is. So for example, for this, those friendly dynamic clouds in the sky describe the transient quality of the landscape, and they are contrasted with the hard shapes below. See, that's a painting idea. It doesn't have to be more complicated than that. And now I have something to work with. When you're working with 3 tones, this also builds visual hierarchy. And this exercise improves this skill for one simple reason. High contrast pulls attention, low contrast pushes things back. Use that mid-tone in areas that you want to push away and jump over the mid-tone when an element is important. With these 3 tones, you only have the choice of using the mid-tone or not using the mid-tone, so it makes you really intentional on where you place that highest level of contrast. And just like that, you're already controlling the story of your image without a single detail. Side note, always flip your canvas when doing shape design. If you're working traditionally, walk in front of the mirror with your painting. There's no reason not to check if your painting is leaning. This thing is definitely leaning, and without the flip, I wouldn't have noticed it at all. Now let's do something that other art teachers will never say to you. But remember, the point of this video is to get you started. So this is something that feels almost forbidden. 3. The focal point hyperfocus. 15 minutes of just delicious over-detailing. Let's face it, doing details is fun, and that fun is something that we can leverage to get work done. Pick one tiny area and give it 15 minutes of obsessive detail. So why would I tell you to do details before anything else, especially since it's so obviously at odds with all art teaching? Because when we are trying to get you to finish more art from a state of feeling stuck, this works because of the Zeigarnik effect. Your brain fixates on unfinished tasks. This way, we're opening an unfinished loop with the rest of the painting. Our brains don't like open loops. By polishing one tiny area, you create a cognitive itch. Your brain wants to finish the rest to match it. This is the moment where your brain goes from, I don't want to paint, to, okay, fine, but let's just fix this one thing. And suddenly, you're painting again. And that, I think, is a win. The reason why this works so well is that it gives you an early reward. Your brain loves progress. One polished area makes the rest look worse, in a motivating way, because you know that you can get them to that same level. Now you also know that the final rendering should feel like, so that gives you direction. If you think about it, that feeling when you want to paint something is honestly a really vague starting point. Of course you feel paralyzed about momentum when you don't have anywhere to go. So that's why starting with a detail can lock in where the painting is going, because that's your most important part now. Use this to teach yourself rendering skills by picking an element that is challenging or interesting challenge for you to start. And when I say detail here, I don't mean drawing every break. I mean solving one specific visual element that you find interesting. One color block in, one silhouette, one element. That's what makes detail feel intentional instead of random. Try to solve a visual problem that you find interesting. This tip, like the rest, is great on its own too. If you're stuck, just pick one random old sketch and detail one focal point area of it. Your brain will drag you into finishing more. So you don't always need to start a new painting. I'm sure you have plenty of unfinished ones. Just show up to one of those unfinished ones with this new attitude. And with that, I think it's time to talk about the real issue here, the reality of showing up, or why these hacks work. Look, these aren't magic tricks. They're structured momentum that professional artists have used for ages, because when making art is your job, You're just not always going to feel like it. That's just the truth of it. Now, I'm not saying that you should always push yourself to work every time, especially if you're close to burnout. But most artists don't struggle with painting, they struggle with starting, and it's important to notice the difference between the two. These three approaches remove what people sometimes perceive as art blocks. 1. Decision paralysis. Too many choices, your brain shuts down. When doing any work, even in a group with others, always plan around the fact that choices induce decision fatigue. And 2. Perfection anxiety. Fear of making something bad means no progress happens whatsoever. Time limits are great because they lower the stakes. You're not committing to a masterpiece, you're committing to just 15 minutes. And your brain can handle 15 minutes. It also hands off some of this responsibility that you feel when you start making art. It's the open-ended make something amazing that causes panic. You can use these in isolation or in combination in any order, but if you have the self-awareness to know what you need, you can use this simple rule to start. The atmospheric base pass, that removes fear. The three-tone silhouette creates clarity. The focal point hyperfocus creates an open loop for momentum. So just use the one that works for you at that moment. But if you're not sure, just pick anything. Honestly, picking something is better than nothing. Common mistakes to avoid here, and I do think it's worth going over these as well. Don't try to make the base pass pretty. Honestly, that defeats the entire purpose. Don't add details during the three-tone silhouette stage. Instead, focus on the entire canvas to make it work, and be clear on where you use the midtones and where you don't use the midtones. And finally, this is probably the biggest pitfall, don't turn the focal point hyperfocus into a 2-hour rendering session. You don't need to finish the entire painting in that style. In fact, when you are in the middle of the painting process, be ready to let go of the areas that you might have already finished, because you can react to the other information that you have on canvas at that point. Let the painting breathe and live a little in the process. Then you have elements that you can react to. That way you can keep it fast and you can keep it fun. And the end result will definitely be better than you even imagined, because you're also building that intuitive skill in your painting process. So next time you feel stuck, don't wait for inspiration, just give yourself 15 minutes. Your future self, the one finishing the painting an hour later, will thank you. I'm Mikko, hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.